What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So today we got some One Piece news and just some general updates. We're going to be talking about the upcoming One Piece fan letter animation. We're going to be talking about the upcoming One Piece episode, actually the episode that just passed as well, 1121. A lot of cool stuff just happened and will be happening, so this is going to be a really hype month for One Piece. Okay, so first off, let's talk about the One Piece fan letter animation. So this is kind of a special, which is a series of like side stories that have been compiled into one animation. And it's going to be by Megumi Ishitani, who is a very, very hyped director for One Piece. Megumi directed the episode that comes before the ultimate episode where they reveal all the One Piece bounties. The one where we get the introduction of like the warlords, the Yonko, the emperors. They do that whole breakdown. They have all the transitions. They reveal what happened at the Reverie, that episode. And Megumi has done a bunch of other great stuff too. That's just the episode that always sticks in my mind. But yeah, she's directing this animation, so we can already expect great things. Now we have a synopsis of each of the characters' basically stories. This is going to be a lot like the Tales of Ba Sing Se from Avatar, if you've ever seen that, where it's like a mini story of each character that kind of gets lumped together into one animation. So first off is Luffy, and for his story, amidst the chaos of the Marineford War, a Marine soldier watches as Luffy risks everything to save his brother Ace. Struck by the strength of their bond, the Marine begins to question his own relationship with his brother, who is also fighting on the battlefield. As the battlefield rages on, he finds himself torn between duty and family. I like this one a lot because this one kind of points to what Garp was dealing with at Marineford War, where basically he has a duty to the people, to the Marines, but he also has his family who is risking their lives on the line. And he's stuck between this idea of, do I do my job or do I protect my family? And that's what this Marine's going through in a way. Like, I don't think it's as much as, wanting to fight for the Marines, fight against the Marines. It's more along the lines of, is this fight worth it? Where he's like, me, my brother, we're putting our lives on the line here for what? For what reason exactly? And it's like, do I stay here? Do I keep fighting these pirates for a reason I'm not really sure about? Or do me and my brother get out of here with our lives? And I like the idea that it emphasizes that idea, because I know there were a few Marines, even in the show itself, like the anime, the manga, there were Marines that were watching things unfold and they were just like, is this really worth it? Do I really want to be here for this? Are we doing our job successfully? Like they had those kind of thoughts and that mentality. We even saw how Akainu treated one of them who wanted to go back to his family. So we know this kind of thought process exists. Just nice to get a different viewpoint of it. Up next is Zoro. And for his, in a lively bar in Dressrosa, a tipsy Zoro finds himself caught up in a heated power scaling debate with a group of Marines. The topic: who is the strongest swordsman in the world? Mihawk, Shanks, Vista, Ryuma, or Zoro himself? Unbeknownst to the Marines, they're debating with none other than the very man at the center of the discussion. As the drinks flow, Zoro keeps his identity hidden, quietly amused by their arguments. This one I find one of the most interesting because it's basically the fandom, and Zoro's at the center of it, because they're like, who's the strongest swordsman? We have been debating who the strongest technical swordsman is for such a long time. One of the most debated things in the community is who's stronger, Mihawk or Shanks. What's funny about this is that it's very agenda fueled, where they throw Vista in here, and Vista versus Mihawk is a very contentious thing, as much as, Mihawk and Shanks and stuff, but the fact that they have all three of those people in here is hilarious. And there's even like a blurb of the conversation where they're kind of hashing it back and forth. We're like, well, Mihawk has a title. It's like, well, Shanks is a Yonko, but we haven't actually seen any feats from Shanks. And like the lingo they're using is very similar to the lingo we use in the community. So I really appreciate this one. This one's nice. And it's funny because some of these side stories are like deep, introspective. Like Luffy's was fairly deep, I would say, for the side story. Zoro's is kind of like, not necessarily a joke, but it's much more lighthearted. But it's like some of these are funny, some of these are deep, some of those are in the middle. So I kind of like the blend. Next is Nami's, a reclusive young woman from Samondi Archipelago with an intense admiration for female pirates, finds herself deeply infatuated with her idol Nami. Upon hearing the news of the Straw Hat Pirates returning to the archipelago after 2 years, she sets out with the dream of catching a glimpse of the woman who forever changed her life. I like this one just because it gives the idea of like idolization of the Straw Hats, which I think is always an interesting concept because they're pirates, and to most people they're pretty evil. They're bad people. They're pirates. I mean, they ruin lives. That's kind of the picture that's painted of them. So I do like the idea that there are people out there that may not necessarily be pirates, but just people out there like civilians that kind of look up to these pirates. And then we have Usopp's, Usopp's is kind of crazy, I'm not gonna lie. During the events of Dressrosa, a mysterious man arrives in Syrup Village, Usopp's hometown, with a particular interest in Kaya. He quickly wins over the villagers with his kindness and gives Kaya a medical book, charming her with his easygoing nature. As Kaya begins to laugh and bond with him, questions arise about how this new friendship might affect her relationship with Usopp. So basically, while Usopp is away, some dude moved in on Kaya. And it sounds like they're getting friendly. I find that absolutely hilarious because why is that Usopp's side story? Like, we have stories of admiration, we have stories of power, we have stories of family, and then Usopp's girl is getting slipped by somebody else. I also think it's part of a darker theme because one of the things that kind of happened with Kaya in this sort of village arc was that Klahadore, Kuro, was like that, where he won over the trust of Kaya and ended up betraying her. And this dude shows up, wins over Kaya, has like a medical book that he gives her. I often wonder if people are going to kind of like abuse her trusting nature just because she doesn't really have a whole lot of people with her. And I feel like this dude could be one of them. If not, it's really just a funny story. Unfortunate for Usopp, but funny. Next up is Sanji. At the Bratier restaurant in the East Blue, a young woman finds herself stuck in a dull date with a man boasting about his connection with the restaurant's owner, Zeph. But her attention is elsewhere, as she's secretly hoping to catch a glimpse of Vinsmoke Sanji, whom she's admired after seeing him several times before. Upon learning that Sanji has left to chase his dream of finding the All Blue, she now faces the challenge of escaping her boring date and navigating the unique atmosphere of the restaurant without the man she's been infatuated with. Basically, this chick just got a date to Bratier so she could find Sanji. She just picked some dude and was like, hey, you wanna go to Bratier? And he thinks he's going on a cool date. She's just like, yeah, I want to see Sanji. And then she gets there and Sanji's not there. So basically she's here with someone she doesn't want to be with. Sanji's not here. So now she's trying to figure out how to... It's funny because she's not just trying to get out of the date, but she's trying to stay in Bratier while not being on the date. So she's like, I'm just going to leave this table, but I'm still going to be in the restaurant. For Chopper, a Marine commander becomes oddly fixated on Tony Chopper, viewing him as nothing more than the pet of the Straw Hat Pirates. He constantly orders his subordinates to either capture or eliminate Chopper, dismissing him as a mere animal. As his obsession intensifies, an unexpected connection with Boa Hancock begins to unfold, adding a surprising twist to his relentless pursuit. This one I'm confused about because I'm wondering what the connection is. Because I don't really think there's a big connection between Chopper and Hancock other than Luffy. And they don't know too much about Luffy and Boa's connection, so I'm wondering what they figure out here. This one probably has me the most confused because it seems like they're going for a very interesting twist here, and on Choppers of all people, like that's kind of crazy. I want to see how this one is. They got me hooked on this one. For Robin, a young girl fascinated by archaeology loves reading books about the subject. When a boy tells her to stop reading and focus on combat training, she refuses, preferring her studies. Then she hears that the Revolutionary Army is bringing Nico Robin to her town, making her both excited and anxious. She discovers that Robin's visit relates to her homeland in the North Blue, where the world government destroyed her culture and language. The girl wants to preserve her native tongue through archaeology. Will Nico Robin help her, or will she have to give up her dreams for combat training? This one seems to be set within the 2-year time skip, considering that Robin is traveling with the Revolutionary Army. And I don't know if all of them have time schemes. Like, we get some. I think Zoro's and Usopp's take place in Dressrosa. Luffy's obviously takes place in Marineford. I don't know if Sanji's has a specific time. I also don't know that Chopper's had a specific time, but some of these, they do have like time spans. But for this, it sounds like basically someone growing up like Robin is looking up to Robin for like guidance. And I can't imagine Robin not helping. Like if these two do interact, Robin's clearly going to help her either learn something or discover a way to kind of preserve her culture and language. She might recommend something similar to a poneglyph. Like obviously not exactly that, since that's kind of a Wano thing, but something similar. A way to pass down that history and knowledge. I also wonder what the combat training is for, because it seems like the land that she's in might be like war torn or some kind of heavy like military base type ordeal, where even like the kids are kind of training in some way, shape, or form to be military combatants. But any kind of Robin interaction is a good one. Excited to see it. For Frankie, a young girl relocates to Water 7 from a distant island and lands a job managing a quaint bookstore. As she settles into her new life in the bustling water capital, she begins hearing tales of the legendary shipwright Frankie from various locals and familiar faces. Through these stories, she starts to understand the impact he's had on the city and its people, all while carving out her own place in the vibrant heart of Water 7. This kind of scenario is one that I would love to see more in the actual series, which is just bar talk. Bar talk, town talk, people talking about like some of the things that have happened in their town, particularly with the Straw Hats. And like for this, it's Frankie, who had such a big impact on like the area itself. I'd imagine we get some visuals of Iceberg while we're here, in like Chimney and Kokoro. Like I think we should be able to see a bunch of the old cast kind of just hyping up Frankie, talking about Frankie. They might even end up in Blue Nose Bar, which would be funny. Plus we get to see Water 7 again, always a plus. And then finally Brook. A young girl is a huge fan of the Soul King Brook, and dreams of attending his concert in Sabaody Archipelago during the 2-year time skip. Unfortunately, she is stuck in the hospital due to illness. She asks her brother to go in her place, giving him her ticket and asking him to share the experience with her later. However, her brother secretly records Brook's performance using a voice recorder in a sneaky way. Does this have anything to do with pirate activities? How will the girl feel when she learns about her brother's actions and hears Brook singing? This one, the synopsis is interesting because it makes it seem a lot more, I don't know, scummy than I initially thought. Because I think in a way they're trying to say like, okay, he's stealing the performance. But for Brook, I think he would love the idea of someone who couldn't go to his concert still being able to enjoy it. So like if it's like it's like a voice dial, basically from Sky Island, where they just record his voice similar to how he recorded them singing Being Sake. If her brother recorded it like that and then brought it back to his sister, I think Brook would love that. Personally, I would love that, but I think Brook would love that too. I don't see any kind of problem with this. I feel like it would be really hype for both of them. Like this is something I would do as a brother. If my sister really wanted to see this concert, but like couldn't make it, I would 100% go there, record as much as I could, and then bring it back to her. All these synopses are on Pewpiece's Twitter page. If you don't know about Pewpiece, check them out. A lot of One Piece updates come through there. Link will be in the description below. But that's all the stories. There's nothing to set for Jinbei because I think this was in the works before Jinbei was officially part of the crew, so I don't think he's included in this. I don't think he will be. They may do like a hint of it in the actual animation, but there was no synopsis revealed for him. And now let's talk about the episodes for a little bit because we just got 121 and we're going to get 122. 121 was crisp. 121 was Garp versus Aokiji, which we got the start of that. The start of that was really crisp too. This episode though really dove into kind of the background of it. It did the battleship bags. It did the clashing punch. Garp getting stabbed. We went through kind of all that stuff, but the animation on it is just chef's kiss. They had Vincent on there, and I think they had Ota on there as well, as far as like animation goes. But they did the impact frames of Garp and Aokiji dapping up, so good. And it's like these are, a second, a blink and you'll miss it type moment. But I think as far as like the anime goes, we have gotten so hype about getting impact frames with like stuff hidden in it. And so Vincent put everything into this. I love seeing it. And I mean, this was probably one of my more favorite impact frames, just because the visual it's so great, because it's young Garp and Aokiji getting ready to dap up. And then as they dap up, it transitions to older Garp and Aokiji. And I think Cole was talking about how basically a story told in microseconds. That's essentially what it is. And it's done so well. If you haven't seen the episode, check out the episode. It's really good. Speaking of episodes, 1122 is coming out, and they did a short animation for it. This is probably going to be the Honesty Impact episode, the episode where they leave Garp behind. So this is kind of the wrap up of Hachinosu. And when they do like the PV, the short animated little skit for the episode, that means it's probably going to be a pretty intense episode. Or at least it's going to lead to a change in what's happening in the story. And it's usually like excerpts from the manga. They usually don't use like animation scenes. It's usually just manga stuff building up to what that scene is going to be. I'm excited for that. Can't wait to see it. Like I said, I am kind of holding off on watching or holding off on reacting to One Piece episodes until the Kuma stuff comes out. But I am keeping track of like the episodes themselves, especially when they do big stuff or when they have like big animators on. So I will try to keep y'all updated with what information I have in case y'all missed it. Again, all this is on Pew Piece's Twitter. Link will be in the description below. But that's all the updates I have for you now. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. I'll check you in the next one. Peace.